When somebody does something perceived as great, it's almost written off because they're assumed to be gifted.
People see the headline and they forget about the journey that it took to make that headline.
And my journey started real humble. I tried to do a 4-mile fun run with my wife. And at the end of this fun run, my wife walks up to me and she looks me straight in the eyes and she goes, "James, you are pathetic." And she said, "I just signed you up for the Salt Lake City Marathon. Figure it out." My story's not about triathlon. My story's about mindset and the space between our ears. And what I've realized is it doesn't matter if I'm in Oman or India or Africa or Israel, as humans, we're stuck.
As adults, we tend to complicate things. The secret to success is in the little things.
Life is about winning those little tiny conversations, winning those moments, and pushing on till you get to the end.
You're one decision away from a different outcome. In that conversation, I heard, "James, you're not good enough. James, you're not fast enough. James, this isn't worth it. James, you should quit."
You have an opportunity right now to rewrite your history. Every single day you get to wake up and you get to choose who you are, what you get to do.
When somebody does something perceived as great, it's almost written off because they're assumed to be gifted.
People see the headline and they forget about the journey that it took to make that headline.
And my journey started real humble. I tried to do a 4-mile fun run with my wife. And at the end of this fun run, my wife walks up to me and she looks me straight in the eyes and she goes, "James, you are pathetic." And she said, "I just signed you up for the Salt Lake City Marathon. Figure it out." My story's not about triathlon. My story's about mindset and the space between our ears. And what I've realized is it doesn't matter if I'm in Oman or India or Africa or Israel, as humans, we're stuck.
As adults, we tend to complicate things. The secret to success is in the little things.
Life is about winning those little tiny conversations, winning those moments, and pushing on till you get to the end.
I felt empty. I hadn't found my physical and mental limits. It just came into my head, 50, 50, 50.
50 Ironmans, 50 states in just 50 days.
Meet the Iron Cowboy. And he's very tired, but you are fighting through it. They say he once wore a cowboy hat in the crowd of athletes, and the name stuck.
It seemed pretty much impossible.
Comical, yeah, terrifying.
Oh, yeah. He said, "Will you coach me?" And I said, "I don't think you can do it."
This guy thinks there's a chance. It's crazy.
The first few days were really chaotic.
They had forgotten my shoes.
So everybody's wearing like these smaller shoes.
Hey, I'll wear that hat.
Last drops in, you're good.
Past 48 hours. I'm doing 2 Ironmans and 5 hours of sleep.
Then like, how are you doing? He's like, God. So I don't really think he's good.
10.
Let's go from 3. Shit, 3.
You guys are Boston cars off.
James says he can't feel his legs.
He'd sit down, he doesn't sleep. It was so crazy to watch.
1, 2, snoring. You do 1, 2, 3 snoring on a bike, you crash.
And all of a sudden he's like, "I can't do this."
I stopped chasing society's dream. And I went after my dreams.
This is what we as human beings can actually do.
Whatever trial you're having,
It's hard. There's a finish line to all of this. You've just got to get through today.
It's awesome.
Fight.
We'll be there with your bike waiting for you like we always are.
Always. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Man, I am so excited to be here, and what unique times we live in. Still able to do this, which is amazing. I've been on a journey with my family, and I want to share that with you today. And man, it's been crazy because ever since what we call the story of the 50, finishing that, just a whirlwind has happened, and speaking in 48 different countries. And I'm actually originally from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And Calgary, if you don't know, is world famous for what's called the Calgary Stampede. And I had the honor and privilege of going to the Stampede every single year as a kid growing up. I got to go to the rides. I got to go to eat all the great food. I got to see all the concerts. I got to go to the rodeos. And so I was sitting there in my early 20s, and I heard a radio show contest, and they said, we want to find out who can ride the giant Ferris wheel for the entire duration of the Stampede. And if you're not familiar with the Stampede, you probably don't know that it's 10 days long. And I was sitting there. It sounded like a great opportunity because I knew it involved controlling the mind. I grew up a wrestler, and I felt like I could do this. I was super excited. I got my spot on the ride, and I ended up riding for 10 days and winning that competition. While I was sitting on the ride, I got fired from my job too. And so I now had some free time. I had one friend in Utah, and I literally hitchhiked a ride from Calgary to Utah, where I did meet my friend and eventually met my beautiful wife, Sunny Joe. And we're about to celebrate 20 years of marriage, and we have 5 beautiful kids. And man, we did this journey together. And my goal with you guys today is to help you open up your minds to what is possible. And through traveling through 48 different countries, the number one thing that I've recognized is that us as adults, as humans, we are getting in our own way. We're toughest on ourselves. We are our toughest critics. And I want to try to change that. I want to give you guys hope. I want to help you take on your fears. Hopefully by the end of this session, you will have no more excuses for what you're trying to accomplish, and you'll be excited to get in and do it. Since the 50, I get phone calls. Will you come speak? Yes, absolutely. But the bigger one was, will you come do our hard challenge? Will you come do our hard race? Ours is the toughest. And they wanted to showcase how tough their race was with me. And I got this phone call from Africa, and they said, hey, we want you to come climb our mountain. And I said, well, that's super cool, but I don't climb mountains. And they said, well, this is Mount Kilimanjaro, 20,000 feet in the air, the largest freestanding mountain in the continent. They said, you have to come climb it. And I laughed again. I said, I don't climb mountains. And they said, well, we don't want you to climb it. We want you to bring your bike and be the first to ride to the top, 20,000 feet. Excuse me. And I laughed and I said, that sounds crazy. But wouldn't you know it, this is me on my bike on Mount Kilimanjaro trying to get to the top. And this is one of the hardest rides I have ever done. There's no direct route to the top of Kili. And so my legs are hurting. My lungs are on fire. The higher you get, the less oxygen there is. And I got to base camp 12,500 feet. And at base camp, I came across this unique group of individuals. And in that group, they were excited. They had just summited. They were on their way back down. And I remember looking down, and I realized that she only had one leg. And it hit me so hard that I have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. Look at us right now. Back in March, everything was taken away from us. Did we miss something in the journey? Can we be present through chaotic times? And so I woke up the next morning and I said, I'm going to enjoy this mountain. I'm going to have an experience. And we ended up getting to the top on our bikes. And we were one of the first groups to get and summit Mount Kilimanjaro on bikes. And man, what an experience. I remember standing at the top. I'm looking over, the view was spectacular. 20,000 feet. I could see the sun, I could see the moon, I could see the curvature of the earth. And I thought back to that same group. And in that group, there was another guy. He couldn't see what I was seeing because he was completely blind. And again, it hit me. We have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. We need to be present with everything that we're doing. And I found this great quote, and it says, there's only one time that's important, and the time is now. And it's the most important time because it's the only time when we have any power. And this rang so true to me. We want to plan for the future. We want to learn from the past, but we need to be right here, right now. And I hope you're going to be right here, right now with me for the next little bit, because our story is through the sport of triathlon. And I started about 15 years ago. And I was watching the Kona World Championships on TV. And they said, this is an Ironman. And I had no idea what an Ironman was. And they said it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, followed by a full marathon run, 26.2 miles. Total of 140.6 miles. Now, I'd never done any of those. I had to teach myself how to swim, but I was excited. And I said, I'm going to figure this out. Now, it's a solo pursuit. It's you, your mindset, your preparation for all 140.6 of those miles. Now, again, traveled around the world, and the number one reason why people are scared to do an Ironman is the swim. Open water, ocean, dark water, cold water, it scares most everybody. And I get it. I get it. You put 2,000 athletes in the water and you fire the gun, you're going to get kicked in the face. You're going to get punched. You're going to get pulled down. You're going to get swam over top of. It's chaos. And if you haven't prepared for that moment, you don't get to do the rest of the day. You don't get to shoot for that finish line. Now, the bike ride, this is 112 miles. This is the longest part of the day, but I have absolutely fallen in love with cycling. In fact, I'm doing a 400-mile race this weekend in California, and we're going for the course record, and we're super excited about it. But that's a long time to be on a bike. And 112 miles, every single race I do, I retire in my mind about mile 80, because that's when we have the conversation with ourselves about how difficult something is. And this is the same way with life. We get down a road, and it becomes hard and difficult, possibly boring. And we start to question why we're doing it. Life is about winning those little tiny conversations, winning those moments, and pushing on till you get to the end. At the end of the bike ride, you get to run a full marathon, 26.2 miles. Less than 1% of the population has run a marathon. So that number drops significantly when it comes to putting a bike and a swim in front of it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would anybody want to do this? This is what it makes you feel like. Trust me, guys, this is not the reason I participate in the sport. This is not the feeling I'm trying to achieve. It's this one. That feeling right there. In that moment, everything goes away. Pain, sacrifice, time, money. In these few seconds, it all becomes worth it. And in 2012, I set out on a very unique journey, and I wanted to have that feeling as often as I could. And so I set out to break the Guinness World Record for the most Ironmans done in one single year. It was all official events. It was through 11 countries. And I learned a ton about myself. I learned physically what it took to do an Ironman every single weekend. I learned logistically how to navigate 11 countries in the race circuit. I learned nutritionally how to fuel my body, how to recover my body. But what I've learned the most mentally, that has stuck with me through everything, my relationships, my parenting, my business, my athletics, everything. If you can master the space between your ears, there is nothing that you can't accomplish and overcome. And I want to share with you guys a quick story from 2012. And I was in Texas, and the conditions were perfect. And I remember getting in the water and doing the 2.4 mile swim. And when I got out of the water, my buddy Tyrell was there, and he was super excited. He came up to me and he goes, James, you just had a great swim, and the leaders of the race just left. Grab your bike as hard as you can, go catch them. And then he said, you could win today. And I said, no, I'm not trying to win today. I've got a bigger picture, world record, Ironman next weekend, Ironman last weekend. And then he said, just imagine how much your kids will love you if you win. And I laughed because my kids don't care. They want me to come home with a bag of chips or something, right? But he said it. He said, just imagine. When as adults did we stop imagining? Did we stop dreaming? Did we stop shooting for something that's maybe beyond our reach? And I got excited. And I grabbed my bike and I started to bike really hard. And I caught an athlete and I caught another one and I passed another one. And before I knew it, I had taken over the lead of this race. And I was flying. I was flying down the road. And when you take over the lead of the race, they give you a motorcycle escort. And I'm flying down the road and I got the motorcycle and the American flag hanging off the back, and I am having the time of my life. And man, I knew I was getting in trouble though. My body was starting to talk back to me, giving me signs that I was pushing too hard. And at mile 100, I got the biggest cramp I've ever experienced in my life in my quad. It grabbed, it locked down, and it wasn't letting go. Well, I started to pull over because I heard the voice in my head, the voice I call the bully. And he was saying, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. What are you doing? You need to quit. And as I was starting to quit, I heard another voice. And that voice was quiet, but it was confident. And it said, hey, James, you still have one good leg. It's only 12 more miles to go. You've got this. You can finish. And I was like, that guy's right. He's a genius. And so I figured out a way to bike the last 12 miles with just one leg because I only had 26.2 miles to run. I thought, man, I could do this. And so I got into transition. Tyrell was there. He is super excited now. First time he realized I'm winning. And I said, hey, dude, calm down. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going to try to run, but I may need medical help. And I grabbed my shoes and I took off running. And I also grabbed my cowboy hat. I'm known as the Iron Cowboy because during the marathon, I wear the hat so that my kids can see me coming. It's so important to have that energy exchange. And I want to see them. They want to see me. They've been sitting in the heat all day. And let's be honest, when you're wearing a cowboy hat, you look good, because when you're not, you look terrible. So I'm running, I'm fighting. I'm trying to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. And things went really wrong. At mile 17, every single muscle in my body contracts at the same time. And when it does that, it's the most painful thing you can ever experience. Muscles contract so deep, stronger than you can contract them on your own. And when your body decides to lock down, it takes you off your feet. And I hit the ground in pain, and Tyrell runs over and he jumps on the phone. And he looks down at me and he's all smiles and he says, don't worry, James, we got this. He goes, I've got great news. I've got your wife, Sunny. She's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. And I panicked. I didn't want to talk to Sunny. Sunny was going to tell me to get up. There's no quit in Sunny. And so I looked at Tyrell and I said, hey, tell her no thank you. And that was a mistake. And Tyrell walked away. He comes back. He's on the phone again. And he looks down at me and he goes, James, I am so sorry. I don't have medical. I don't have Sunny. But I have your daughter, Lucy. She wants to talk to you. And what you need to understand is Lucy, at this time, was 9 years old. And so I took the phone, and Lucy and I had a quick conversation. And Lucy said, Dad, you said you were going to do a world record. You said you were going to do 30 Ironmans this year. She said, Dad, is there any way? Can you get up? Can you walk? Can you finish? I said, sweetheart, I can't. And in that moment, I felt like a complete failure. As a parent, a father, I just want to set the best example I know how for my kids. I know there's parents right now watching this wants to do the same thing. They just want to set the best example. So when I said I can't, I felt like I was failing. Now, Lucy, not giving up, she said, Dad, I understand. Can you crawl? She said, Dad, can you crawl and finish? I said, sweetheart, I can't. And then she said, Dad, can you cartwheel? Dad, can you cartwheel and finish? I didn't know what to say. So I said, Lucy, yes, I can. In her 9-year-old innocent mind, she couldn't see the option to quit. It wasn't on the table. When as adults did we start looking for reasons to abandon our dreams, our goals, our journeys? Why is it when things get hard, we are really quick to take the exit side door? That girl had belief and conviction. She thought I could cartwheel 9 miles. So I told her I loved her. I said, Tyrell, help me up. Put my shoes back on. We tried to figure out how to keep moving. Lucy had belief and conviction. I said, where's mine? And I kept moving through the night, and we're in last place now. And I made it to where I was 100 meters from the finish line. I could see it, and I was in a lot of pain. And I cartwheeled over the finish line. And from that moment on, we went on to win 2 events, placed second 5 times, and smashed the Guinness World Record doing 30 Ironmans in that year. Now I want to introduce you guys to an amazing person. He's a friend of mine. His name's Dayton. And Dayton has a condition that's called cerebral palsy. And he was born with it, and he's just trapped inside of his body, but his mind, he thinks like we do, and he has dreams, and he has ambitions, and he wants to do stuff. And I found out through social media that Dayton likes to do triathlons. He loves to feel the wind in his face. And so I called up his mom and I said, hey, we're doing this world record thing. Is there any way that Dayton and we could do an Ironman together? And she was excited. She said, absolutely, yes. And I got to meet Dayton for the very first time in Lake Havasu, Arizona on race 27 of 30. And I knew he was excited. I knew his dad was excited. And his dad showed up and he showed us this $20 Walmart raft. And I completely panicked. I didn't think it would be good enough to hold Dayton. I thought it was going to cause a lot of drag. And right before the gun goes off, his dad leans into me and he says, hey, I just thought compelled to tell you that Dayton might have a seizure. And if he does, don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do. Just let him have it. And I said, what? Why would you tell me that? And then the gun goes off. And I grabbed the little rope and I tie it around my waist, and I'm terrified. And so I jump in the water and I start swimming. And I keep looking back as I'm swimming to check on Dayton to make sure he's okay, to make sure he's not having a seizure. And every time I look back, I realized his eyes were closed. And then it hit me. Dayton is sleeping. He's totally fine. I need to focus on what's in front of me, what I can control. And that's how we should all live life, focusing on what we can control. And I did that, and I started to swim, and I swam hard, and I had a great time. And we got out of the water. We were in the middle of the pack. And his dad greeted us with this custom-made cart special for Dayton. And I hear custom-made cart, right? And I'm thinking state-of-the-art material, carbon fiber. This thing's going to be amazing. No, 185 pounds, U.S. grade steel. I knew we were in trouble. Biking's my strength, but 185 pounds is a big ask. Over 112 miles. But we strap in and I start biking and I'm flying down the road. And I look back, and this time when I look back, what do you think I saw? I saw Dayton with a big smile on his face. He could feel the wind. He was having a blast. And I said to myself, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. Unfortunately, at mile 30, Dayton's cart breaks. And where it was connected to my bike, it slipped and started to shake. And that shaking motion caused a tug-of-war effect that brought me down to 4 miles an hour. And I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, I can't finish by sunset. And my beautiful wife, Sunny Joe, she came out on her bike to try to keep us company. She knew we weren't going to make it. And she started to sing to us and tell us jokes and try to take our minds off of what we were experiencing. And all of a sudden, Sunny reaches out her hand and she puts it on the back of Dayton's cart. And as soon as she touched the cart, it took away that shake. And I looked back at Sunny. I said, Sunny, how long can you leave your hand there? And she said, I don't know, as long as you need. Is it helping? And I said, yes, I think I need you for the next 5 hours. And together, Sunny and I pulled Dayton up and down the hills of Lake Havasu, Arizona. We had 10K to go. With 10K to go, the sun sets and the race director comes out and he says, boys, I hate to do this. I've got to pull you off the course. It's no longer safe. We were completely deflated. We'd worked hard all day. And then a police officer came out. And that police officer rolled down his windows, looked us in the eyes, and he said, boys, follow me. I'll get you in. I'll give you your chance to run your marathon. He turned on all of his lights and we followed him in. He gave us that chance to run that marathon.